I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. If you haven't signed the register in the back of the room, we'd appreciate it if you'd do so. Roll call of the board.
Ms. Strong. Here. Mr. Hernandez.
Present.
Mr. Jaramillo.
Here.
Ms. Quintero.
Present.
Mr. Crouch.
Present. Is there a motion to approve the agenda?
I move we approve the agenda as submitted. Second.
Roll call.
Ms. Strong.
Yes.
Mr. Hernandez.
Sorry. Aye.
Mr. Jaramillo.
Come back.
Come back.
Come back.
Mr. Jaramillo.
Yes.
Ms. Quintero.
Aye.
Mr. Crouch.
Aye.
Trying to do two things at once.
Mr. Jaramillo, do you have any board comments?
None at the time.
Mr. Hernandez, do you have any board comments?
Yes, Mr. Crutch. I just want to say thank you to all the staff. I've gotten a lot of feedback about the opening of schools, and now that it's been a couple days, it's all been overwhelmingly positive. And I think one of the things that I mentioned to Ms. Miller before we started is I've been knocking on doors in the Sunnyside district over the last couple of days, and one of the things that I'm hearing that is really positive is a lot of community members who don't even have kids in the schools talking about the transformation that they've seen over the last year and really the last 2 or 3 years. So I just wanted to commend all of our staff for their hard work to get us started back up, because it seems like it comes earlier and earlier every year. But despite all of the work that we've had to add and all of the things that we've had to do to accommodate the calendar, I think we have had a lot of really great feedback about all of the opening of the school. So I just wanted to commend and say thanks to staff for all their hard work.
Ms. Quintero?
Yes, I do. Actually, I've talked to the kids in the Peace Garden, and they had a fantastic first day. It was brilliant. They said it was a great day. So that's always good. And I have a challenge for all of you. So every time I pass Bilby in front of Sunnyside High School, there's this pool that's got weeds taller than us, and I have a problem. My OCD is like getting to me, and I just want to go out there and clean it up. So I've adopted it through the Tucson Clean and Beautiful program. But the thing is, I need 4 other people to join me. So I am going to throw it out there. If you so choose to volunteer with me to dig out weeds, clean it up, pick it up once a month, just to keep it nice and pretty. And then after 6 times, you get a sign that says, the park has been adopted by the Sunnyside School Board. What a concept. So that's not to be voted on or anything. I'm throwing it out there. So, and my birthday's coming up, so that would be a great birthday present. That's my comment. I'm done.
Ms. Dong, you want to follow that?
I have a yard. Anyways, yeah, this was an incredible beginning of the year. I want to thank all the staff and everybody that worked so hard to get it going. And excellent. Out there you're talking to people, and everybody's all happy and excited. Everybody had a really good first day. I got a chance to go to Star Academic Center over there, and Miss Flores did a fabulous job. She had banners out there that was really inviting. The students were all happy and smiling and talking, and you could tell they were so excited about being back, and the welcoming they got from the staff at Star. Not just the banner, but they were out there walking them all, bringing them all in. I thought it was going extremely well. Had a chance to go and talk to some of the students there, but also I went to the Dr. Allen Storm Construction Center, and I got a chance to go and talk to the teacher and the students for just a little while and tell them how excited I am for them to be in that class and in that program, and how much they could be able to to do once they get that all completed, because there's just so much out there as far as jobs are concerned and opportunities, and maybe not even, if they don't go into that field, the knowledge that they'll gain on fixing their own homes in the future and stuff is just you can't even say enough about it. So it was exciting. It was an exciting first day, and once again, thank you to all the staff that made it possible, because I know it wasn't just something that, okay, today's first day of school and it just happens. You guys worked hard all summer long in order to get that going, in order to get that to happen. So thank you so very much for that.
I'd just like to echo that. All I've heard is positive feedback, and it's really been wonderful. It's been a really nice, smooth start. I almost held my breath, and it's really gone well. So congratulations to everyone. Mr. Holmes, Superintendent's report.
Thank you for the comments, Mr. Crouch, President of the Board, and other board members and members of the audience. So kind of to begin our superintendent's report, just really highlighting the telling of our story. If you had a chance, Sunnyside back to schools received some positive coverage in the news outlets, including the Arizona Daily Star, KVOA, KOLD, KGUN, and the Arizona Bilingual. Coverage included everything from school supply drives to first day of school to new instructors and upcoming grant opportunities. All the schools have new websites, and schools are increasing their social media presence to better tell their story and engage with families and communities. I think we're in the process of still updating our website, so I think the vision is to also put staff on there, pictures. I know the board loves pictures of people, so when we go into schools, you can see who the teachers are and who's the office staff. So I think that's something we can work towards so that we can all recognize who's out there and who's actually in our classrooms when we see them out and about in our community as well. We also have our upcoming Star Teacher and Pride Awards on August 29th. The Star Teacher and Pride of Sunnyside will take place at Desert View High School on Wednesday from 7:30 to 9 a.m. The annual event was created to recognize the valuable contributions of teachers, district teachers and staff. Schools sent one star teacher and one out-of-the-classroom employee to represent the pride of Sunnyside. District office, food services, maintenance, and transportation also select the Pride of Sunnyside recipient. So that's kind of the day that we'll be hosting that. We also, in collaboration with Raising Special Kids, the Sunnyside Unified School District's Exceptional Education Department is offering educational workshops throughout the 2018-2019 school year to help families support their students. So workshops are free and will take place in the evenings in the Mesquite Portable. Topics covered include IEP training, turning 18, legal options, and positive behavior support. Our first program workshop on IEP training will take place on August 29th. We encourage families to visit raisingspecialkids.org to register. So I thank our exceptional ed department for putting these workshops on. And lastly, we have our Alumni Associated Annual Hall of Fame nominations. They're due on, it looks like August 31st. So Sunnyside Alumni Association is seeking nominations for the 2018 Hall of Fame. This year's event will take place October 20th at Gallego Intermediate Fine Arts Magnet School at 5 p.m. The annual dinner is a signature fundraiser for the Alumni Association's Dollars for Scholars, which last year awarded close to $70,000 in college scholarships to graduates from Sunnyside, Desert View, and Star Academic High School. Nominations are due on Friday, August 31st at 5 p.m. So applications can be mailed or delivered to Sunnyside District Alumni Association, Attention Student Services. I think that concludes our superintendent report. Just a quick update that's not on there. As you can visually tell by the parking lot, our solar groundbreaking has started. So we chose, instead of doing a groundbreaking, which is somewhat uneventful, is to do a power turning on with solar. So we will make that kind of our first order of business once we get the first sets of power on. I think I like kind of flipping that switch than I do digging a hole with power up. So we'll be within the next 3 months, probably beginning these concurrent projects, and one of them will at least be up to us for us to do an official kind of power up meeting with with our solar. So that's a little bit of an inconvenience in many of our schools. Just want to warn our community and folks as we begin to install these projects. And in some cases, is going to impact parking situations. So we'll be working principals in schools to make the appropriate accommodations for egress in our parking lots. So I thank you. Here's to a good year.
Ms. Miller, no call of the audience. Okay. Next on the agenda is consent agenda. Ms. Dahm,
Move that we accept the consent agenda as submitted.
Second.
roll call.
Ms. Dawn? Yes. Mr. Hernandez?
Aye.
Mr. Jaramillo?
Yes.
Ms. Quintero?
Aye.
Mr. Crouch?
Aye. Motion passes. Next item on the agenda is opening of school report. Dr. Benton?
Good evening, President Crouch, Governing Board members, Superintendent Holmes. In the theme of the evening, we're going to do a review from different departments on how school opened. I have to echo Mr. Crouch's thoughts of we were sort of holding our breath like, okay, that went smooth, so. But we just kept getting that day after day. So really, kudos to our schools and to our principals for really thinking through the details and you know, we do it every year, but somehow, but it really went smooth this year. So we're excited to share with you just some update from my colleagues will be joining me at the podium just to give you some updates, and then any questions or thoughts or comments you have additionally, we will entertain. All right? So we're going to start with the logistics and operations side of it, and I'm going to start with Mr. Oakley, as he takes a drink of water right when I call him up. Perfect timing. So he can give you a quick update on food service for this year. Sorry, I timed that well. Sorry about that.
Good evening, President Crouch, members of the board, Superintendent Holmes. Happy to say that first day from a food service perspective went really smooth, excellent, right in line with everything you guys were talking about. All sites were visited. I went to every site the first day. The typical issues the first day are line speed, but I thought it was better than usual. Still a little slow in the beginning, but it gets better every day as we're processing the applications. Fully staffed, no service issues. With regards to the applications, we've got about 4,500 already processed. We haven't had any applications in the first couple of weeks that took more than 3 days to process, which is really fast. Just to put it in perspective, the state guidelines allow 10 days to process an application, so we're way ahead of the curve on that. But it's to all of our benefit. The sooner we get the applications processed, the less parents are calling in wondering why people aren't eligible and stuff. So we've really kind of streamlined that. We also did our direct certification upload with the state, which is basically the students that qualify via food stamps, other things like that that make them automatically free. We've done that upload, and we have 6,100 kids that automatically are qualified just off of that. So as I'm talking right now and as of today, we're on 1 day turnaround on the application. So the first whole push is pretty much done right now. So-
Congratulations on
All
that.
right. No, thank you very much. So really happy with the opening, and that's really all I had from food services unless you have questions.
Any questions?
Oh, that's fantastic.
Okay. All right, thank you. Thanks, Pam.
All right. And we spent a lot of more time on school safety last time, but we still want to do an opening day update. Mr. Castellum will come on up for that.
President Crouch, Superintendent Holmes, members of the board, members of the audience. You know, from our last board presentation of the active shooter presentation, we definitely used a lot of that information and took advantage of last week's all admin meeting and really customized the PowerPoint for administrators so they can start those discussions on their campuses. So we used a lot of that material and presented those pieces. We stressed you know, that culture of safety on our campuses and that it's a shared responsibility amongst all of us. And so we definitely covered those key pieces. You we are definitely following up with sites having to create those site safety teams. And I've been in contact with Dr. Favela and Mr. Morales and Deputy Powell over the last couple of days, and just about every day. And they've been going around just doing safety checks at a lot of the sites, and there's still some work to do. I mean, there's still some doors that are propped open. There's still some doors that are not being locked. So it's those reminders to those site leaders there that it's important that, again, it's a shared responsibility and that we are paying attention to those details, because it's crucial and very important. Once these site safety teams are developed, we would like, and it's going to be composed of certified, classified staff, and not just the certified staff. They got to have different voices on that team. We're asking them to do their own assessments on campus, their own threat assessments of access points, entry points, exit points, and then we're going to come around definitely and check up on those to make sure. And again, it's being getting different sets of eyes on what's going on the campuses, and it's not it's more of a support role, giving them information to make sure our sites are safe. So I believe tomorrow is when emergency plans are due. Again, as a safety team here at district site level, we'll be reviewing the emergency plans and definitely be giving them feedback on those plans. We're working on our handbooks, our flip charts. That, again, these are important resources for them to have when these situations come up. We have stressed the fact that when the situation comes up, that point person is going to have to make a decision quickly. So, but it's good to make sure that they have these things in place so that they have some knowledge of what to do, and more importantly, that they're being transparent, not just to their staff, but to students and to parents as they message their procedures on campus for that. So that's our report. Any questions?
Ms. Tong?
I'm just glad that you're having a lot of different perspectives in your committees, because everybody sees things a little bit different. Some people are out in the playground, they're seeing certain things. Others are more in the classroom, they're seeing certain things. So that's great that you're doing that. And I've been hearing a lot of really good, positive things about how they're getting the training. They're liking the training. They're happy that that the conversations are there. That the conversations about the doors and the gates and things like that are there. They're actually, I'm really happy, I feel, about those conversations. So thank you so much. It's not something you're coming in with like a threatening thing, but rather everybody working together. That's how I feel, when I hear conversations, that everybody's working together. And I think it can become this year a culture.
Right.
That everybody is thinking safety and thinking about how they can work together in achieving that goal. So
Absolutely.
Thank you.
And I would like us to keep in mind, too, that we need to keep the community appraised of what's going on, our parents and the greater community at what we're doing, and that we're keeping that ball up in the air all the time. So
All right.
if we can keep that in mind.
Definitely. All right. Thank you.
All right. I have Mr. Valdez, who will be representing two departments tonight. He'll be handling transportation and also facilities.
Good evening, President Crouch, members of the board, Superintendent Holmes. We'll go over real quick some of the transportation, and I think, like in keeping up with the theme, I think we had a very good opening. All our staff worked very hard during the summer to make sure all of our routes were done, everything was up, and our routing program was working good. Our routes were online, available for the entire community way before school started. So we still received questions at the last minute, but we were able to point people right to the routes. We actually sent staff to each of the sites to show the staff at the sites, this is how you find your routes, this is how you can help. The best customer service for our clients. We were really fortunate, unlike other districts in the area where all of our routes were covered at the first, and continue to be, but we're not going to let our guard down. We're going to continue looking at hiring people and keeping people up there and hiring them as subs, and then working them into regular full-time positions as drivers leave. So we're not going to let our guard down on that. The good thing about it is the drivers receive 3 days of full training prior to the start of school, and some of their training included idling, just simple bus idling. We had the Pima Association of Governments come in and do a whole training class on idling and how it affects the ozone, how it affects the air quality, and around the bus at the time prior. As students are getting on, you have all that smog around the bus. So we talked about idling, and they presented that. We worked with Deputy Powell, keeping up that theme of safety in the schools. We provided training to the bus drivers in case of a lockdown. What do you do? If buses are outside or the driver is inside just doing something, whatever they have to do at the school, what do you do? In addition to that, we talked about lockdowns. We also went into talking about mandatory reporting, because the drivers are sometimes the first line of sight or the first school official that those kids see. And if something doesn't look right, what do you do? Who do you report it to? What is your what's your responsibility in that type of investigation? So they received a lot of training other than just, this is a bus and this is how you take care of it. We talked about pre-trip inspections. We stay on that same theme of how do you make sure your bus is the safest it can be when it's on the road. So we did a lot of that. Like I said, our routing program was working really good. We're continuing to route new students as they come in, and we're getting them routed daily. We also sent out, and I'm sure you all got the email where it talks about, we sent out protocols on lost and missing kids. What do we do, and how do we handle it? Who do you call? How do drivers get involved? So we sent that out to all the sites, as well as make sure the simple things such as your radio, is your transportation radio charged, or is it on the right frequency, those kinds of things. And we're sending staff out. We've gotten since we sent this out, we've actually had a couple schools call and say, hey, my radio's not working. So we've sent staff out to make sure that those are working and properly programmed. That's all I have for the transportation. I think we're keeping up with. We had a really good year. Staff was very happy so far, and we're continuing. So what I'll do is I'll go. Oh, I'm sorry,
Mr. Valdez. How are we doing with the drop-off and pickups at the schools and traffic around the schools during the drop-off and pickup times?
I haven't. I've been out to the sites, and I haven't seen a lot of problems. It looks like the sites are got it all nailed down. They've the drop-offs and pickups, especially sites such as Craycroft and Lawfer. Last year we had a lot of problems, but by adding that center gate between the two sites, and then what we do is we have the buses actually, as they're leaving Craycroft, they come through that center gate, so they're not fighting with the parents for the one exit out of Craycroft. So they're coming out and exiting out of the Lawfer gate. So it's actually working with the sites to identify how we can improve the drop off.
It looked much smoother when I've driven by the schools.
Yes, it's looked a lot smoother. We've worked with Summit View, and at Summit it was actually when they were doing the construction on Summit Road, adding the sidewalks there. We worked with the site to actually instead of a single lane, do a double lane parent drop off and pickup, and that's worked out very well there too. It's reduced the traffic congestion around the site immensely. Any other questions?
Thank you.
So I'll go straight into maintenance then. Let me switch my hats here. In preparing for that worst case scenario like we've had in previous years, the night before school starts, as the book could start off, we had extra staff on standby. We made sure that we had people ready to go in case of the short notice and the emergency situations. And luckily nothing really developed. But we've adjusted our staffing time so that we have staff earlier in the morning, being ready in case of an emergency happens at sites, and then later on in the afternoon in case you have that last minute backup of a bathroom, that we have staff there available to address those situations right away. And in addition to having the staff available for emergency situations, we've taken the time and really worked really hard in keeping up with the safety in the maintenance department by addressing the questions that were addressed at the last board meeting about doors. And we worked really hard on addressing the door situation, and we're to a point now where the only thing left, we fixed the doors and door frames that were addressed, and now we're just waiting for the door closures, that one little piece that helps the door close. So we're waiting for those parts, and they've already been on order. But the door itself and the frames and the ability to secure that part that's addressed by the maintenance department has been addressed so far. Other than that, we've had no major incidents, and we're ready for them. Any questions?
Ms. Stone?
I just want to thank you for keeping us out of the news. No transportation issues, no facility, all kinds of air conditionings going down or anything like that. I've been watching the news and nothing but good stuff, like Mr. Holmes was saying, is coming out of the news. Good stuff on Ocotillo and what they're doing, and good stuff throughout the media. And you know, and sometimes, you know, the beginning of the school year has been tough.
Yes.
But this year, there hasn't been negative things going on in the media about Sunnyside. It's all been positive programs, positive grants, positive things going on. So, you know, thank you. I know transportation's a big job, and you guys seem like you've got it nailed down this year. Where you don't have people.
We're doing really good, and I'll tell you, it's because we have good staff. It's because we have good staff and people that are committed to doing a good job for the students. That's why. It's not because of me, it's because of the staff that's there.
The training also that you've been able to provide them this year
Yes.
is phenomenal.
That's
You know,
good.
Not just
Thank
like
you.
you said, this is your bus, here's your keys.
Right.
This is how you turn it on. No, you've done an excellent job in
Thank you.
the types of different variety of training that they have had.
Yeah, we try to keep it up to date and really what's hitting, how they can be a positive impact to the school and the students.
I just want to alert him that it is pouring down rain outside, Carlos, so just saying.
That's what I thought.
That's right. All right, any other questions or
But the
comments?
sun is shining.
That's right. It is. Anything else on logistics and operations? All right. We'll move to teaching and learning. And now we're closer to the kids into the classrooms. And we're going to start that with how many kids we have. And Mr. Baca will make his way up here and go through the enrollment piece.
Good evening, President Crouch, members of the board, Mr. Holmes. Unfortunately, my news isn't as positive as some of the other things that have been occurring among our different departments and startup of school and the various excellent things that have been occurring at the beginning of the school year. What I have to report today is very preliminary, but I would like to come back following our 15th day at a board meeting where I can provide a more comprehensive overview of it as I've done in the past. But to begin, what I'd like to show you is that we are seeing the continued trend of loss enrollment. Wait for this to come up, in the 14-15 to 15-16 school year, we lost 900 students in that 1 year. The following year, we lost another 400 students. Last year, we saw it flatten out. And so we were hopeful that this year we wouldn't see a continue to that downward trend. Right now, we're seeing a loss between 250 to 300 students. And the reason I don't know what happened to that link. It just disappeared, didn't it? That's okay. I'll open it up separately. So this is one view of what demonstrates the downward trend. And I know I've printed out a copy for you so you can see it. But these numbers down here show our 15th day enrollment for each of the school years, 14-15, 15-16. And you can see there's a 900 loss here, about 400 loss here, a flat change there. And then right now, this is misleading. And so this is why I want to give you a little bit of explanation for it. We've used the 15th day as our metric, as our benchmark to compare each day. And that's because our first 10 days are when we can capture enrollment for students who don't show up until that 10th day. For example, there may be several students at one school or who are on vacation. They won't show up until the 10th day. If we drop them the day they don't show up, that very first day of school, we give up all those membership days. We can hold on to those membership days up until the 10th day. If they show up on the 9th or 10th day, we've now just gotten credit for having been here since the first day. They're absences, but we still receive credit. We do that to maximize the membership that we can recoup throughout the year. So we don't drop until after the 10th day. Tomorrow is the 10th day. In the meantime, this 15,523 number is inflated simply because there are a lot of students, and what I want to point you out to is what you can see on the right side. On the right side of the graph, for each of the schools listed here, this last column, where it has the 354, are the number of students who have not showed up for class, who were registered and have not showed up for class. So in total, it's about 354 who we expected to, who were registered at some point, or were continuing students and have not showed up at this point throughout the year. And so the other view I wanted you to see, that's very strange that that link would just disappear like that.
While you're pulling that up, Mr. Oh, sorry.
Yes,
Go
go ahead.
ahead.
While you're pulling that up, Mr. Baca, it seems like, and if I'm mistaken, please correct me, looking at the data, we're still having the issue largely concentrated at the elementary level.
sir.
And we're seeing gains at the middle, mostly at the high school, but we're still seeing that big drop off, especially at places like Esperanza, Ocotillo. But it seems like almost all of the elementaries had some level of drop off, even if it was only a 6 or so.
Yes, sir.
Is that correct?
That's correct.
Okay.
So what you can see here, this is a general trend. You see, you may not be able to see the color scheme here, but the only two schools who show a slight increase are Drexel and Elvira. All other schools are seeing losses in the amounts of 30, 59, 19, 20. So you can see the trend here at this is at the elementary level. Now, this isn't a surprise,
Right.
because our smallest cohort was the kinder populations from 2 years ago, which is now our second grade population. And so that dip is just making its way through the entire career, the entire year, 12, 13 years of attendance in Sunnyside. So that the elementary level is where we expect to see those continued dips. And thankfully, our high schools do continue to kind of help offset that. But what we can report today preliminarily is that we do expect there to be approximately a 250 to 350 student loss, which will translate to about 250, 350 ADM. At the meeting where I can present that, I think I can give you a more accurate assessment because I will have completed the 15th day analysis at that time. Okay. And projected ADM at that time. I'm sorry? I'm sorry, Mr. Holmes. Our projection based off of our previous trends and the fact that it started to flatten out last year, that we were going to continue to see a decline, but we only estimated at 100 students.
Right.
And right now we're seeing that not
Almost
200,
double.
250 to 300. So an additional 250 potential student loss beyond what we expected.
Mr. Holmes, is there any way we can analyze why those students aren't there in terms of contacting, a little bit of research?
Yes, Mr. Crouch and members of the board. So every school is in the process of calling or have called and are tracking the contacts that they made. Specifically, if they're moved to another out of district, within district, or to another area. And so once we actually drop, after the 10th day, we'll gather those that data from each of the sites to then present the analysis as we present to the board, because I think that will give us a little bit clearer picture. I think we're guessing a lot, particularly schools like Esperanza, for example. She tracked every single student, and the vast majority have moved out. And so that's some of the factors that are, we don't know why. And I moved out, I mean, it wasn't necessarily because of a school issue, but it moved out of that area.
Mm-hmm.
We do know that Desert Shadows is an aging community, like many of our communities. And so that's still, we believe, is a factor, but until we do the official analysis, we'll bring it to the board to make some real justifiable claims. And then take some steps if there are places that we can actually take steps to mitigate.
Mr. Hernandez?
Thank you, Mr. Crouch. And you may be getting to this, Mr. Baca, because I know that you had another part of the slide that you were going to show. What is the impact, if we have already the ability to predict this, on what our staffing ratio is going to be at the elementary level? So if we're seeing a decline in 35 or 40 students, how is that impacting how many? And do we have that ready, or is that going to be?
So this is where it gets interesting. So as we're running our preliminary analysis, we're actually adding 4 teachers.
Okay.
So I just want to get everyone's attention. What does that mean? So we're actually up in kinder than we projected, and those numbers are high in 3 schools, like in the 30s. And so then that we have to staff at a lower. So we are funding 4 more teachers, 3 at the kinder level at Los Niños, at Craycroft, and Summit View, and then 1 at Drexel because they had a combo that's now large. And so the reality is the numbers are so spread out throughout the system. We create smaller class sizes, but not enough to collapse a class. The exception being we do have 2 teachers at Santa Clara where the cohort sizes have been small enough for us to actually move those particular 2 teachers to different schools where we have long-term subs. But it's not creating enough of a drop for us to actually cut any teachers in those classes. So that's the interesting. High schools, because they're up, it's kind of a wash when you think of section staffing. Actually, Sunnyside's higher than we projected, so we might be looking at 6/5. So this is the irony in the work, right? Is we're losing enrollment, which has a budgetary implication of 250 more than what we projected is about $1 million. And so we're losing $1 million, yet we're having to, make sure part of our budget balance carryover is to look at how do we make sure we maintain our ratios. So I know it's a longer explanation, but I think it's really important for those in the public to know we're still committed to our ratio in class size. Even though we are losing enrollment, it doesn't necessarily translate into us being able to compress or collapse particular classrooms across the board.
Mr. Hernandez?
Thank you, Mr. Holmes. I think that was one of the concerns that I had looking at this data, that we were either going to have to compress some classes or potentially have teachers take on more and say, okay, instead of having an entirely new classroom, we're going to give this teacher a little bit more. So I'm glad that we're keeping that at the forefront, because I know that's something that we can actually use hopefully to our advantage as we're doing some recruitment to try and do more open enrollment, trying to talk about, our classes is maybe lower than this charter or TUSD or other districts where we might have competing schools. So I think that, unfortunately or fortunately, depending on how you look at it, might be something that we can use as a draw for families to come, especially at the elementary level where we're seeing the biggest drop off. So thank you.
And just to add on to that one of the things that we did is we looked at those staffing pieces. We don't have any that sit really, really low. So everything is 22, 20, 21, so they're in a really nice where we would love for them to be all the time. So to Mr. Hernandez's point, it really gives us a good opportunity to also, engage with our kids in a different way, because we are experiencing those little bit lower class sizes.
Any other questions about the enrollment? Like I said, I'll definitely come back with a more comprehensive overview, but
I think if we could do it as a Friday report, I don't think it needs to be a long presentation, especially as long as we don't see any changes in terms of, compression. I don't think we need to have you spend additional time preparing a presentation when a data table would be more than sufficient.
Unless we do find something,
unless there's
as a
something.
root cause or some drivers.
well, I'll be prepared either way, so thank you.
Thank you.
Right. And so to go right along with that, Dr. Bergman is going to walk through where we're at with hiring and with the vacancies.
Thank you.
Good evening, President Crouch, members of the board, Superintendent Holmes, and the audience. I'm coming to you for the 3rd time so we can talk about where we are with our vacancies and how we're moving forward. As you can see, I used the same chart because then you can see the progression of how we're moving. As of August 10th, which was last Friday, I had to think for a minute, last Friday, we have 40 vacancies in the certified classrooms. Of those 40, 33 of them have long-term subs. And if you think back last year or the year before, we've practically cut that in half, which I'm excited about because of the fact of working with different individuals in their certification, having some of them move into emergency certs who are wanting to move forward to gain their full certification. And we were lower as of Friday, but as Mr. Holmes shared with you, we added four new positions, which bumped me back up to 40 and 41. So that is the total where we're at right now.
Mr. Hernandez?
Thank you, Dr. Bergman. So now that school has started at most of the districts in the county and in the rest of the state, how much harder do you think it'll be to fill those vacancies where we don't have a long-term sub? Because I know that sometimes we have people that move around and say, you know what, I started at this school, I'm a couple weeks in, may not particularly like the environment. Is it easier or is it harder? Because I'm trying to remember the trends and I can't remember off the top of my head if it's easier to once we've gotten started, or if it's significantly more difficult to fill those spots.
It's more difficult because of the fact that many districts now have liquidation fees. And they do not let up on that and they're pretty hefty.
Right.
And because of those liquidation fees, they don't really let up until the mid-year. And in the mid-year, if somebody is just really unhappy, they will either let them go or they pay the fee and they move on. And so we'll see a little bump in applications at that time. We still get applications on a regular basis, but they're some are out of state, some are individuals who haven't gotten a job somewhere else, and there's usually rationale and reasoning behind why. And so, and I pretty cautious in the sense that we look at them thoroughly to see if they are a fit for what it is that we have openings in.
Thank you, Dr. Berkman.
You're
Thank you, Mr.
welcome.
Crouch.
You're welcome. Let me go on to the next slide. This just shows you the vacancies by the levels, where we break it down by elementary, middle, and high school. And as you can see, elementary has still been problematic in finding those teachers who want to spend their career and time in elementary. It's become difficult to find them and want them to stay in. People are referring one subject matter, one content area, and moving into the middle schools, or those elementaries that have one content for 5th or 6th grade. So, but hopefully people will start moving more down towards elementaries, but they have the greatest vacancies at this time. But we have good long-term subs that have filled those positions. Questions on this one? No?
Looks good.
Okay, I'm going to go to the next one. So this is our vacancy count of August 10th. We have 4 in our electives, we have 24 in content, which includes those elementaries, and then 13 SPED. And I have worked so closely with Dr. Williams that I feel like we live together because of the fact that she is working so diligently as well, trying to find individuals to fill those slots, as well as human resources.
Mr. Holmes?
Just, Dr. Bergen, just for clarification, I think this can get confused. Vacancies do not equate to not having anybody in those.
Correct. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, that's why you have to always go back to that first slide. Even though there are 13 vacancies, the majority of them are filled with long-term subs, but I still have to consider them vacancies. So you can just see the breakdown. Okay, and I think that's it for me. Questions?
Questions from the board?
Kept you pretty informed.
Yep.
So, thank you very much.
Mr. Holmes?
I think it's worth noting, Dr. Bergman and I, and soon to be Dr. Hackett, met with the Dean of College of Education and his staff. I mean, it was pretty much her team who are interested in partnering with us on a Grow Our Own program, looking at folks within our community or district, so employees or non-employees who actually have an associate that'd be interested in doing a Grow Our Own program. It would have an investment from us as well to look at. This is about 1.5 years away, but we are the district that they are looking at as a good partner to begin to look at exploring a cohort of 24 individuals that could start a program in the potentially spring of 20 to begin and particularly be teachers here within an 18-month period. So again, these are just, I mention it because I think as we wonder, well, what are we going to be doing about this? There are some proactive approaches that we are taking that would genuinely address the idea of making sure that we go to our community first to begin to have people that are going to stay with us for the long haul.
Mr. Hernandez, then I have a request.
Thank you, Mr. Crouch. Dr. Bergman, I briefly talked to Mr. Holmes about this before we started. And one of the things that I thought of was maybe having us hold workshops for staff on how to fill out things like the FAFSA. So that way they can have that associate so they can then leverage to try and become somebody who is a teacher here in the district or another position. Because I know that it can be a very scary process, especially if you've been
Yes.
out of school for a while. But I think people would be surprised to know what kind of grants or scholarships they may be qualified for, especially if they've been out of the, like if it's been 10 years since you went to
Out of the
high
loop.
school,
Correct.
you may not even know that you can apply for financial aid. So I think if there's anything we can do, maybe partnering with some organizations or with PIMA to try and do those workshops so that folks know here are the things that I qualify for, so that I can get that associates and potentially use that as well to get that grow your own program started. But again, it's
That's a great.
a ways off, but I think
But it's still, we're in the ground, we have to start looking at how we can get those individuals to a point where they can say, yes, I can do
take
this."
advantage of it, yeah.
Yes, yes.
Thank you, Dr.
You're
Bergman.
welcome.
And Mr. Holmes, my request is, can we get some feedback partway through the year on how our visa
Absolutely.
teachers are doing? Just so we can keep track of it.
So, Mr. Crouch, just to that point, one thing that Dr. Bergman and I know Mr. Chavez are doing are working in collaboration to bring all the new teachers with visas in on Friday to do a quick overview on the district, just a real kind of nice kind of
Calling it-
introduction.
Yeah, meet and greet.
Meet
for
and
so-
greet, and I think it's, and we have some teachers that are coming from the similar program who have already have experience working in the States, who are going to help us as well, who are volunteering to help us in that transition for those that are coming straight from another country. So I think one thing that I think we're trying to think of is how do we make sure they feel welcome and they use some of those assets that we have in our community to help them transition better. And so that's part of our transition, which I hope will help with the survey we do mid-year in terms of what we've done over and beyond what I think others are doing to make sure that they feel welcome and that we set the expectations early on with them.
Thank you, Mr. Holmes. Ms. Dong?
Yes, we did this just over 20 years ago when we first created or started with Ed Center South, which was Pima College over there by the airport. And what we did was we would go in and talk to all of the staff. And also during PTO meetings, we talked to all of the parents. And we were able to get Pima College. We didn't have Desert Vista yet, but West Campus would come and do financial aid workshops.
I remember that.
With our
I remember that.
staff and our community members, and after that we had so many people from Sunnyside and from up and down the community get so excited, including ELL classes, that we our registrations of our students got so large that they gave us this warehouse that became Desert Vista Campus.
Yes, I remember.
So there are a lot of teachers that I know here in
Who are
Sunnyside
still working for
that are
us.
still working for us. They're at Summit.
Yes,
They're all
they're all
over
over.
they're all over this district that have that went first through Pima, and another good thing about doing that is that they went through it, a lot of them together.
They did, they had
And so,
cohorts.
yeah, so
of
they felt really
individuals.
good, and helped one another because a lot of them hadn't been to school, and some of them actually were also that were there were the younger ones that were graduating out of high school that were there with their parents in the classrooms. I had many of my students were like the mom and the dad and one or two of the kids. In there. In the same classroom. That was kind of different, but it was great. I loved it, and we got so many people that are teachers, and we got them from the classifieds. We got them from the food service. We got them from transportation. We had them from the TAs in the classrooms. We got them from all these different areas, and they all started going to school. And even the ones that didn't become teachers, they still felt really good because they were able to enhance their skills in other areas.
correct.
And so even the bus drivers, they stayed as bus drivers, but they were able to communicate better with the students and with their parents and stuff. So I think it's a win-win situation, and I think we can probably get the U of A and Pima together because that's what we did last time.
Yeah.
And work, and now it's even easier because we got Desert Vista campus there, and they're very willing to jump in and help us out, so
Well, we'll keep you posted on.
that's great,
on the
thank you.
progress. So, thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Burton.
Now, the good news for you is I have the microphone. It's the topic is curriculum, and you don't even want to go outside because it's pouring down rain. So, no, just kidding. Very briefly, just a quick update on curriculum. The good news is we're not making major changes. We're continuing just to go deeper and deeper and do what we have. Higher levels of rigor, just get better at what we're doing. The only adoptions that you'll see come forward this probably beginning in the fall for next year will be formal adoptions in mathematics curriculum at the middle school and high school level. We'll still stay, of course, in the OER space, but we'll begin forming those committees in the fall. Bring that to you at some point within. The rest of the curriculum, primary resources that we have are consistent. They're the ones you approved in May, and we'll continue with that work. The other big change really for us is changes with our coaches. Our coaches who were formerly known as instructional coaches, as you know, were moved and migrated onto the teacher's teaching salary, the certified salary schedule. So we now refer to them as teacher coaches. And as part of that migration, they are co-teaching one period a day, every day, which is really exciting. So they're all doing it early in the morning, so we still have time to come together as a group. But they've made a very serious commitment about it. It's not a wink, wink, nudge, nudge, I'm co-teaching. They have been very selective about thinking through who my partner teacher is going to be, so that they have some of our coaches are new out of the classroom, some have been out of the classroom for 20 years, so that they have that opportunity as things have changed so much in education that they're co-teaching to get that feel, to have that experience, to help them better their own coaching skills, and also to understand what that context is for teachers right now. So we're in the process of solidifying those partnerships. And they truly are partnerships. They're not evaluative. The co-teacher that they're coming into are people they've had conversations with to say, does this make sense for you? We've also asked them to challenge themselves. So we're super proud of Lucedes McBroom, who is one of our instructional coaches at the high school, is an ELA teacher forever. And she has chosen to co-teach in mathematics at the high school level for her co-teaching, because it's not where she coaches well, because it's content that's unfamiliar. So really excited about that, what that's going to bring for them, and also the capacity that's going to bring to the teachers that they work with. That, in conjunction with our work around lead teachers, we'll continue with that. The formative assessment work that we've talked about with FAI and SOL courses that we've reported to you over the course of time, there's another version of it called SAIL, Student Agency and Learning, that all of our leads will be engaged and involved with. We also have 7 schools who are doing that work, that intense work, site-wide. So all of their teachers are engaged in it. So all of their teachers will be engaged in the video study group that we shared from before, and really a deep, deep level of really professional conversations and professional learning from each other. And so we're working on a partnership with West Ed for those 7 schools. We met with them for 2 hours on Friday or Monday, I don't know, one day recently, and really excited about the work that they do to grow that so that we can go to scale in a reasonable way that makes sense for our teachers. So our teachers are really excited about that prospect as well. And then our lead teachers will be engaged in sales. So every building will have teachers that are engaged at some level in that formative work. But the rest of what we have is continuing. It's a new reading diagnostic for our elementary schools that has already been through the process, and we're in the process of putting that in play now. But the rest of what we have is digging deeper and raising the level of rigors and getting better at getting better. So any questions on the teaching and learning side? Because I can go on. All right, thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Benton. I'd just like to make an observation that we were talking about how things have gone smooth this year, how they've improved. To me, that's a sign of leadership. Leadership at the top level and leadership at site level and in the classroom, all the way through. I think leadership has really come to fruition within the district, and so I want to applaud all the leaders in the district.
Ditto.
Next on the agenda, we have the principal evaluation instrument.
Good evening, President Crouch, members of the board, Superintendent Holmes. I am here today, and I think you have a copy of the principal instrument. This is going to be my third year. I can't believe it. It's gone fast, and it's been wonderful working with all of you. But are you looking at your time? Yes, Hector. He's like, what, 3 years? He's thinking about money, I know that. But being that it's going into my third year, I've had the opportunity to evaluate principals, work with them, collaborate with Dr. Bergman, and also consult with legal advisors as to how to better improve the evaluation for our principals. And we are not changing the domains or the indicators. They are the same, but we are making some fine refinements. So, for example, on page 5, the evaluation components, one of the things we can't change is the school level student academic progress. That will remain a possible of 20 points depending on growth. For now, it is AC Merit. If it changes, it will be whatever instrument the state decides to use. What will change is the leadership development plans. Every year, principals have to set a goal for themselves, 1 or 2 goals, for them to grow in their professional development. And so that will go down from 13 points to 8 points. The leadership standards assessment, which is what we consider the meat of the evaluation, this is where the domains are, and that will remain the same, but the points will be 72. And so one of the reasons for us to change this, because in the past, the points were a bit subjective. So for example, on page 10, you see one of the domains, which is vision, mission, and goals. In the past, there were 3 indicators for a possible 11 points. So now, based on the evidence and indicators, if a principal scores highly effective in every indicator, the total will be 12 points. And it's very clear, it goes from 1 point to 4 points. So it begins with unsatisfactory performance, which is 1 point, to developing, to effective, and then highly effective. The other change that we made to the instrument is on page 8, Exhibit A. That will change every year. So for this year, we have not received the AC Merit growth. We need to meet with the evaluation committee every year and decide where the growth point range will be. So as soon as that is decided, and the principals know this, they know that every year, depending on AC Merit scores, that score will change. But again, for a possible of 20 points. So again, these are minor changes that I feel will improve. There won't be as much subjectivity when assigning points on the performance level of principals. And I did share the instrument with all the principals and assistant principals and talked to them last week about the changes. I feel that everyone feels good about the changes, so I'm seeking your approval. Do you have any questions?
Mr. Hernandez and Ms. Dawn?
Thank you, Mr. Crouch. Ms. Gallegos, I think one of the things that I'm curious about is if you could pull up the self-evaluation. I'm
Yes.
curious to see, any trends that you've seen when folks have been required to do the self-evaluation. Do they kind of align with how the evaluator sees them? Are they more harsh? Are they, without getting into specifics,
Yeah.
obviously, but what do you see as trends? Because I'm always curious
Yes, it's
on the
a
self-evaluation component on this
It's a
tool.
good question. I have to say that about 80 to 90% of the principals are very hard on themselves, or we match. There is, I would say, 10 to 15% who do not match, and they don't see what I see. But when we sit down and we look at the explicit evidence, when they say, I don't agree with you on this, and I say, okay, convince me, show me the evidence that you
Yeah.
say this. And when it comes down to evidence, it's very clear. They have to say, okay, I have it, or it's either you have the evidence or you don't have it. But I have to say about 80% we're pretty much the same. If anything, sometimes I'm like, why did you score yourself so low? And so I go a little higher. So it's a very small percentage where there is some disagreement, or, sometimes principals will score themselves high. And when I say, okay, you can score yourself highly effective, but I need the evidence. And once I say that, they go, oh, never mind. Let me lower it down. So overall, I feel good about this.
And then, Mr. Coach, one last question, if I may. I know that we've done a lot more to try and have collaboration, not just with teachers, but now with principals.
Yes.
What have been the trends in the 3 years that you've been here in terms of how spending time together as administrators has helped or changed some of the behaviors that you're seeing as people are going back out to their sites?
One of the things we began this year, and actually Ms. Benton and I have talked about how we're changing that this year, is group the principals. We have what is called the principal cadre groups. Last year we had 4 groups where we worked together as a group. We visited schools. We had a focus, which is the same focus that we are doing as a district. And what I heard back from principals is that they love it. They find it very productive. In fact, some of the principals, when I shared this, the leadership development plan, they thought, because I did meet with a small group of principals to talk about cadre work and how we could improve it, because we know that every year we need to improve what we're doing. They suggested that we align it to the evaluation instrument because they see it as valuable growth for them, and that will be one of the goals in their professional development plan, the work that we do in the cadres. So I feel that we're building capacity also, because the principal cadres that we have done with principals, we are also doing with assistant principals and with our academic behavior support specialists, also with coaches. So we're not just working with our principals, building capacity within them, but we are doing it with other leaders in our district. So I feel very good about the work, and I hear from our principals that they want to continue that work, but definitely refine it.
Wonderful. Thank you, Mr. Crouch. Thank you, Ms. Gates.
Any other questions from the board?
questions? You look like you're thinking.
No, I'm thinking that maybe I was supposed to ask somebody else this question.
You can ask me, and I'll get a volunteer here.
Because we started talking about, which I think is fantastic, you bringing all the principals together to work like that, and along with the assistant principals and the other,
ABSSs and coaches.
all the other coaches and everything else. I think it's great because then everybody's on the same page.
Exactly.
And so that reminded me of a statement that had been said, but it has to do with teachers and their collaboration. So I'm not sure if you're the person to ask about that, but it has to do with AZ merits and the scores throughout the district and where they fell.
Okay.
And how you had started collaborations with teachers.
Yes.
For example, math.
Yes, like
or-
the district Wednesdays where they all meet and
Yeah.
collaborate. We can definitely talk about that in our CNI and maybe bring you some information. You're talking maybe about impact. How is
Yes.
that impacting our work as a district, like the collaboration that they are doing?
Yes.
Okay, I
That-
can definitely work with our directors to bring that back.
And see if there's shows in AZ merits,
Okay.
how that impacts if all the math teachers of a certain grade
Or ELA
or
okay.
ELA of a certain grade are all getting together throughout the district. How is that
How is-
impacting our AZ merits?
Yes.
Yeah, that's what I would like
That
to
makes sense. Actually, it's a
Okay.
very good question, so I'll be very happy to work with Ms. Benton to bring that information to you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Mr. Crouch. One quick question. On the AZ merit portion, where's she at? Come on back.
AC Merit, okay.
Hey, on that one, what would, it's 20 points max that they can get, right? What
Oh,
would
you're
be
talking about the principal one?
principals,
Mhm.
yes?
Yes,
Because I have looked at the scores as well.
yes.
And what would be the average score that a principal or the group of principals are getting?
I would say that the average is either 15 or 10. I can, again, email you the results for
Yeah.
this past year, because I have exactly where everyone fell. We did have some schools who had 20 points, but I would say the majority were on the 15
There's
points.
only a handful of
Yes,
maybe 20.
yes.
just a
But I can
handful.
email you that information, because I have that for this past year.
Okay.
If you would like, Mr. Holmes, I can send it to you and then to them.
Or to the rest of
Okay.
us,
Yeah, that way you see
That'll work.
exactly where everybody fell
Yeah.
this past year.
Because I'm glad the emphasis is not on lazy merit, because I don't think that would be quite fair to all of them. Okay, thank you.
Yes, so no, I'll be happy to send you that. Are there any other questions? No?
Is there a motion?
I'd like to
Ms. Dawn?
move that we approve the principal evaluation instrument as submitted. Second.
Roll call?
Ms. Dawn?
Yes.
Mr. Hernandez?
Aye.
Mr. Jaramillo?
Yes.
Ms. Quintero?
Aye.
Mr. Crouch?
Aye, motion passes. Thank you. Are there any suggestions for future agenda items?
I guess that kind of was mine, about the,
Okay. Any others? Is there a motion to adjourn?
I'll make a motion to adjourn.
all right, second.
The rain stop.
Roll call?
Ms. Dawn?
Yes.
Mr. Hernandez?
Aye.
Mr. Jaramillo?
Yes.
Ms. Quintero?
Aye.
Mr. Crouch?
Aye, motion passes, meeting's adjourned.
It's too dark to tell if it's still raining.
I know.
Sun's gone down.
Yeah, it is.
I can